Luciana, have you ever been whistled at?
Yes.
What did it feel like?
Well, I recall as a teenager walking past a construction unit.
Just knew it was going to be a building site.
Unfortunately, but that's my experience.
Yeah.
And it was a group of men. As far as on other occasions, the one that sticks in my mind as being a particularly negative experience was also the fact that it was a group, and I was much younger, and I felt at the time, I felt threatened. So.
Yeah, intimidated.
Yes.
How do you think they meant it?
Well, it's not so. It's how I perceived it as much as how it was intended.
I know that, and we've established that.
Yeah.
But how do you think they meant it? Do you think they were trying to intimidate you?
I don't know. But if you have a group,
what's your hunch? Were they just? Did they think they were paying you a compliment? Do you think?
Possibly. Again, I can't answer for them, and it was some time ago. But I think we've got a job to do to really affect some sort of societal change to ensure that we address misogyny. Because
I know, but I don't want to get all politician about it, because let's assume the point I'm trying to make is some of these people don't think there's anything wrong with it, and they think they're just paying you a compliment, and that's fine, but it's not.
Well, it's not fine if the person that you're directing it to feels, as a result of that, feels intimidated or threatened. And I can certainly, from my own experience, refer to one moment where I certainly felt like that, and other moments where, I felt that I've been the subject of unwanted attention that's made me feel really, really uncomfortable. And I don't think you can say in our country that that men have the same level of experience that women have, and you have to look at some of the figures to see that we've still got this big issue that needs to be addressed.
Geoff, you ever done it?
No. Yeah. Yeah, I have. And it was on a building site. And it's interesting when you talk about motives.
Were you working on a building site?
Yeah, I was working as a labourer for a friend. I was about 16 or 17. And the truth is, looking back, the motive was bravado between men rather than anything on the lady. And I feel awkward now saying it. I think that when I speak, you mentioned age as well. When I spoke to my friend Karen about it, and she said the problem with men is that they'll often do it at women at an age where it actually makes them feel self-conscious. Then when women are at an age where they're confident enough to perhaps take it in the spirit it might have been meant, or take it as a compliment, men have stopped doing it. And it's tricky. It's really tricky. I feel tense right now in the studio. Because I still get the thing, and this is the honest truth, my wife comes home and got a wolf whistle today. She'll actually throw that in my face and say, ha-ha, see, I've still got it. So I think the problem possibly is misogyny to me is always about hatred of women. And if you lump this in linguistically with this, is it hatred? No. Is it part of a pattern? Possibly yes. And then also from speaking to women, I think a more sinister problem is it's not an out and out of, because I mean, it's quite a 1970s thing, a wolf whistle, isn't it? Yeah. It's the more graphic things, the more overtly sexual things that are being shouted on the street that are a real problem and really unpleasant.
Do you know what? More recently, as we've discussed, casual harassment on the street, and perhaps being a father of two daughters, who I'm very nervous of what their experience is going to be like as a teenager. I've noticed it more and more. My wife on public transport in London experiences this kind of thing, not wolf whistles, but uncomfortable behaviour quite regularly, as do a lot of women. And if you pay attention and try to look at it as a man, because it's not our personal experience, we don't pick up on it in the same way. But when you actively look at it, it's everywhere. Have you experienced that, Alexis?
Well, I haven't experienced it myself, but
my point is, have you observed it?
I do. I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and very much like you, it crosses my mind, and also she's coming to an age now where she's sort of aware of all these things, and you just kind of think, well. But coming back to the wolf whistles, I think it's interesting, because I've always thought, what's the intent behind stuff, and I kind of see Geoff's point of the intent. Behind there is not something that comes out of misogyny, but we have to start realising that you don't automatically have the right to make someone feel uncomfortable just because you think there's nothing wrong with it. Let's not forget, it's not too long ago where people were okay with casual racism. They thought, I'm not hurting anyone. Well, you kind of are. Yeah. You may not think it's, there's nothing wrong with it, but the person that it's directed at has an issue with it. And it goes, so I think, unfortunately, wolf whistling has to fit in that section, the sex that once we start realising that actually, shouting at a woman across the road because you find her attractive is not okay because of the way that can make somebody feel. Not for everybody. I don't think that is the actual problem, but maybe if people start becoming aware of it, then the things that you talked about with your wife, perhaps on public transport, that will have a knock-on effect to making people think a little bit more about what they are portraying. I still don't buy into this, this Me Too thing. Oh, you don't know what to do around women now. You do know what to do around women. Just don't be inappropriate. It's not rocket science.
The thing is, a wolf whistle is obvious. It's plain for everyone to hear. The intent, by and large, is pretty clear, and it's like you said, Geoff. These people think they're paying a compliment, but actually, up to this point, we've become too obsessed with intent. That, i.e., I thought I was doing the right thing.
Do you think they're paying a compliment? I mean, what is a wolf whistle? Come to think of it, you look at an attractive lady, and you're basically shouting, going, "Oh, I fancy you." That's kind of what you're saying.
I don't think it's complimentary. I wouldn't do it. And I've worked on a building site too. In fact, when I worked on a building site, I remember buying the Daily Sport to try and fit in, and was castigated for being a dirty scumbag.
But don't you think, though, Matt,
It was quite a progressive building site I worked on. Let me just finish the point. The point I was about to make is, actually, society needs to look at perception and how people perceive these actions, whether it's wolf whistling or anything worse than that as well, of which there is plenty. Storm, who have we got on the line?
We've got Shirley calling from West Yorkshire.
Shirley, how are you?
Hello.
Would you have been offended if someone had wolf whistled at you?
No, I would have been flattered, actually. It's just wolf whistling is one thing. Obviously, if they're calling out various things, I wouldn't agree with that.
How would you take a wolf whistle, and if you walk down the street and someone whistled at you?
Now, the age I am, I'd be very flattered. But, no, I did get wolf whistles when I was younger. And it didn't, that, as long as it was just a whistle, not, across the road, group of workmen or whatever. Yeah. But I was telling your young lady, I was following a young woman down, and these blokes whistled, and she got really offended, and she turned around and she said, "No, blah, blah." And I thought, oh, get a life. There's a lot worse things in life than being...
I can understand the dynamic, Shirley. If you're a young woman on your own and a group of older men are basically heckling you, wolf whistling, that would make me feel very uncomfortable. And who are they to make you feel like that?
Well, it didn't make me... Obviously, if they'd have started dashing across the road and grabbing me, I would have felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah, maybe there's quite a bit of a leap between those two actions. Shirley, thank you so much for your call.